Uh, Thank you, everybody, for attending today. My name's Howard Murphy, Business Development Manager for DB Computer Solutions. I'm happy to say that I'm joined today by Yuso Santi from CIM Software, who will be giving us an overview of CIM200 integrated with Sage 200 and what it can do for the production process in your business. Since Sage discontinued their own manufacturing modules for both Sage 50 and Sage 200, CIM Software entered a partnership agreement with Sage for CIM 50 to be the recommended replacement for Sage 50 manufacturing, and not long after introduced CIM 200 as the replacement for Sage 200 manufacturing. So CIM 200 enhances the existing modules already within Sage 200 with its own works orders, graphical scheduler, planning, and shop floor data capture modules. Using these modules allows your company to efficiently manage inventory with complete visibility and offer more streamlined processes on your factory floor. So from the DB Computers perspective, we've been working closely with Yusa and the team at CIM Software in replacing some of the older Sage manufacturing solutions from both our Sage 50 and Sage 200 base over the last number of years. And from those efforts, we've built up a team in DB Computers that can install and configure CIM for new customers with the backup, of course, of CIM Software themselves. As I said earlier, this will be an overview of CIM200, but in the interest of time, we will be recording a separate video which will accompany this with CIM200's shop floor data capture module over the next while. We will have some questions and answers. Feel free to add it in the chat or the Q&A area, and we'll bring them up either as we go or towards the end of the session, depending on where we are within it. So with no further ado, I'll bring in Yuso, who will now take us through CIM200 for Sage 200.
Okay, thank you very much, Howard. My camera works, so I can I can show my face in that process.
I don't know why it's not working. It's just very strange. It literally worked 2 minutes beforehand, and all of a sudden decided not to. It's probably the new microphone I'm using here today. So look, and I'm not trying to hide anything. It's just not working. Just get that in there.
That's sure, of course. That's what they always say.
Yeah. Oh, listen, just a little bit of housekeeping before we kick off. Just for anybody who is unfamiliar with Teams and just to get a better screen, you can, of course, if you have the participants tab on the right-hand side, you can knock that off and make the screen bigger, or you can click on View and focus on Content, or you can go to I think it's within View, it'll allow you to give you an option for more options and full screen as well, just to give everybody a better view of the actual screen. Sorry, Yuso, go ahead.
That's okay, Howard. Thank you very, very much for that. Thank you very much for inviting me today to talk about CIM200. So I have shared my screen, and hopefully Howard can confirm that you can see the screen.
Yes,
my Sage 200. Good. So what I wanted to talk to you today about is very high level what CIM200 is all about. So if that sparks any interest, you can of course contact Howard and a team at DB to have a little bit more in-depth look at the software. But CIM200 is non external app. It works as a Sage module, so it sits within the Sage 200, and our design methods of around CIM200 is to have that familiar Sage 200 look and feel. So we are enhancing some of the Sage standard modules like stock control, SOP and POP, as well as bills of materials. But the works orders and planning, they are completely our own modules, and those are the ones that Sage have discontinued as well. So if I ease into the product in itself and start looking at what we have enhanced over and above of what Sage can do, and if I start from CIM stock list, and you see familiar stock list, but from here we can go and have a look some of the functionalities that we have enhanced on the stock module alone. So if you have a look at the list, what columns can you add on to the list view, you can see some of the some of the functionality we have introduced, and we have approximately about 100 features over and above of Sage 200 manufacturing, if you are familiar with that solution. So that's what we have enhanced on the stock item in itself. Additionally, if I get more, I couldn't live without the dishwasher, so I take my dishwasher as an example. But what we have also or recognized over the years is that it can be quite tricky to get any information out of Sage. So you have to take multiple steps, go into the multiple screens. So especially in the stock area, we have brought a lot of that together. So we have very popular feature called stock profile. So if I open this up, you will see all the action or all the ins and outs of that stock item in one screen. And that can also be filtered by a warehouse. So we could have a look. We have no purchase orders coming in to factory. We have purchase order coming into the warehouse, and then we can view what is our overall across all the warehouses. And from here, if I can choose sales orders, for instance, that are requiring this item with the dates when they've been requested, as well as when they've been promised to be delivered. And from this list view directly, you can actually go and view the sales order. And of course, I click that button, it always works perfectly fine, but my VM is starting to always the way. He's starting to be a little bit temperamental, but you will be able to go and view that sales order directly from the stock profile screen. You can go and view the stock record in itself. You can go and view the history. So that's where we can go and view that particular order. Okay. And from here, if you view history for the same stock item, we are using the standard Sage stock item history, but we have also included warehouse and overall quantity on that date. So if you're familiar with Sage 200 stock history, it's missing these two columns. And if you needed to know what the stock holding was, let's say 6 months ago, you would have to calculate every in and out for that warehouse. Whereas over here, I can go and have a look in March 2024 on a factory in that bin. Actually, I had 15 in stock. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of a quick access to information. We also have quarantine if we have any quarantine. So this has arrived from purchase orders, gone into the quarantine for inspections. Don't have any in transit, but I'll touch that a little bit more in a second. And then we have the stock projections. So we will see what we have coming in, going out, also for the dates, and what is the balance across all the warehouses. Or we could have a look what is our balance at the end in my particular warehouse. Because see it's going on to the negative, so we would need to do something about that. And we can have a look at the MRP's stock projection, and MRP has actually already picked up on it. So we have MRP recommendations to replenish, and my minimum stock holding would be 6. So that's why our ending balance is 6 on the screen. You can see a little bit of a history in terms of the commercials as well, with all the purchase quantities, manufactured quantities and their values, also what you have sold in that period, and you can filter that for any financial year that you like. And the graph shows you the cost price variance over a period of that year. Okay. So that's just one screen that's accessible from numerous places. So I will show you a couple of them. So, and it's a really powerful tool to build up and having information of your stock movements.
And the really important thing here as well, Yusuf, is the fact that, I mentioned that CIM200 and yourself, you mentioned too, it's fully integrated. So you're working from within the windows in Sage 200
Mm,
itself. So it's quite seamless in
correct.
that way.
It is. And if I go into the stock item in itself, this is a standard Sage stock screen. But we have our fingers in the pie, like we have on many other screens as well. So, for instance, going into the manufacturing and planning tab, we have enhanced this significantly over and above what Sage had. We have numerous more replenishment options and such like. We also bring in alerts. If you're familiar with customer supplier alerts, pop-up text whenever those customers or suppliers have been used, but now you can have the same on the stock items, and that can be made to pop up when you handling with the sales orders or quotes, or if you're doing a works order issue or bills of materials, or even if you are when you are dispatching that, there might be some information that you want to make people aware of. One of the big things that's been requested over the years is audit log. So we are now introducing audit logs in stock items, bills of materials, works orders, sales orders, quotations, and purchase orders. So any changes to data on those will be captured by our audit log, which is built into CIM200. So have the commercials. That's exactly what we had a look at the previous screen. And also you can have customer part numbers. Sometimes customers might utilize their own part numbers when they're sending you their purchase orders for items. You have to find a way and ways and means of converting their stock item to yours. But you can actually utilize the customer part number in sales order entry. So to show you that in a moment. And quite a big thing what we are looking at is the quality control. At this level, there really isn't anything there's any quality control elements built into the manufacturing solutions. So we taken a step towards that direction. So you will be able to enable a quarantine on an item and set defaults if it goes into if you're buying them. Do they go into the quarantine area, which is a holding area? It's basically a warehouse, but you wouldn't be able to issue stock, allocate stock from there, do any stock transfers or anything like that without an inspection. So it basically locks the stock item into that location until it's been inspected. So that can be on a works order completions. And you can also enforce as globally to get all the sales returns to go into the quarantine warehouse to be inspected before they've been released or scrapped. You can also do partial inspections. So you can say every time I receive something, even whether it's 1 or 100, one of them will go into quarantine. If I say full receipt rejection, that means that if one passes, everything passes. If one fails, everything fails. So you don't have to go in on a full quantities. You can also have inspection templates. So you can have different inspection questions. They can be visual checks. They could be certain values. You might have tolerances, heat, moisture, all sorts. And then you can have your values, whether it's actually a passing or failing the inspection. And you can go even further and say, okay, this item can only be inspected by the managers, for instance, just to get them out. Also, we have some byproducts, which is basically a byproduct, whether it's on a works order receipt or purchase order receipt. And what it means is that item whenever you are receiving let's say a dishwasher, it will always be delivered on a pallet. So you will be able to get, you will have a pallet going into stock at a zero value, whereas the dishwasher goes in at a full invoice value. On the supplier side of things, you can see we are starting to measure metrics on the OTIF performance on the stock item level. And so you can see how your suppliers are performing, or are they delivering on time. And also we have supplier price breaks available on the stock item. And one interesting part is that we are starting to get calculate the carbon emissions for your manufacturing processes. So any stock item can carry a carbon value if they've been used, and that will be calculated onto the top level item when they come into stock. And so, and finally, in the stock item in itself, we have enhanced a locations or the warehouse hierarchy over and above what it is for in CIM200. So we could say, okay, we have demand coming into factory. Let's say we have a factory, but I can use stock out of a warehouse. But I could also say I have demand in Stockton, but I can use components from factory, even if the Stockton is not here. So I will be able to build up. I have a sales order to Stockton. I can actually issue components from factory onto that location, even if it's not part of the warehouse list. One further thing on here on this screen I can point out is our help files. So we are trying to give you as much information as we possibly can. We have our so because I came from a stock record, it takes you onto the maintaining stock records knowledge base article. So we're maintaining that for feature, for any feature. Okay. So that was a stock item in itself. So we have quite a few other items there as well. So we have rapid entry stock movements, which is basically a multi-line entry of stock transfers, writing of stock, and adding stock. So in standard stage, you would have to go through one at a time, but with CIM200, you can do a multi-line entry really quickly. So, and that's particularly of interest to those who use serialized parts. So if you think about any traceable items, because you can't do stock take in standard stage for traceable items, and you have to go and adjust them one by one. This one would allow you to write off stock or add stock on a multi-line entry, but CIM goes a little bit further on that one, of course, and allows you to do a stock take on the traceable items. That's no problem at all. And then if I go into quality control, I've mentioned about the quarantine. So over here, I had some items that's been received on a purchase order, some transferred manually into quarantine, and one came on the back of the works order completion. So if I would go in now and inspect the item, you will see there's an inspection screens. It tells you where it came from, who did put it into quarantine. If anywhere rejected, you can actually generate a rework works order with a completely different set of operations to do the remedial work for that particular item for the quantity. And hopefully you see this stock profile coming up here. So from this screen, you can also, again, you can go directly into the stock profile just to see what impact it might be. If something failed, what impact might that be, might that have? And also we can see this is needed where. So I have a sales order 5110, I need 100, I have 50 outstanding. At the moment, this is only covering 5 of them. Do I need to be worried about that? Don't know, but stock profile would show me. Similarly, on a purchase order side, I can actually raise a purchase return directly from here. But for interest of time, I could spend an hour just on the stock control, but I will have to move forward. And if you have a quick look on bill of materials, what we have done here is just take a standard Sage bill of material, and over here now you can define your bill of material quantities as a percentage rather than ETs or kilos or meters or millimeters or any other unit of measure. You can actually just define it as a percentage of the total. Git bombs allows you to bypass the build process. So you allocate the Git bomb into a sales order and it just basically does the build at that stage. And base items are now one-to-many type of works orders. So you make, let's say, a vat of something. You might be mixing a vat of paint of 1,000 liters, but you are stocking it in 1 liter, 5 liter, 10 liter paint pots. So when you're doing a completion, you say, okay, I had 10 of the 10 1 liter ones, 10 of the 50 liter one, 5 liter ones, and 10 of the 10 liter ones, and in one click it will do the build and takes into account the costings of the extra materials like the paint pots itself onto that stocked item, and those 3 will go into stock at the right quantities, and the base mix has been apportioned accordingly. On this one I only have 1 components list, but we're allowing now to have multiple different components list for a build, so you can predefine different ways of making something. So different ingredients, different chemicals, quite often used on that side of things. And in routes, we go for, you can have multiple different routings as well. So sometimes you might make it in-house as a default. Sometimes you might want to subcontract it out. And then, of course, we have a carbon footprint calculator. I'll show you that in a works order in a second, a little bit more in detail. So from here, I can move on to a works order, because works order is based on the bill of material. And if I have a look at one, this one of the closed ones, let's pick that one. So if I go and view that works order, so over here on the works orders, we give far more information at your fingertips again, straight on the when you're opening it. That's where you can select your routes and components lists if you have them, and we can link them against the sales orders and such like. Subcontracting can be all managed directly from the works order, or we have actually a subcontracting area where you can manage, you can raise orders, dispatch and such like directly from here and showing you their status. On the costing side of things, you have original estimated and last estimated. So last estimated is if you make any changes to the working BOM, it will then tell you what the last estimated is. And at close, you get the actual costings of the materials and everything else. Completions, of course, and then you have the audit log, what you have for any changes. And then the carbon footprint calculator. So if we have our original carbon calculation, and then you get the actual carbon calculation, and it tells you how many kilos of CO2 equivalent you have produced making this item. And if I go and have a look on the actual cost breakdown, it will tell you all the materials. It's only used one material. All the machines that are consuming, whether they are running on coal or oil or electricity or um, whatever energy they are using. You will get the actual times book of time. CO2 posted against the works order, and this can be reported, of course, over a certain period of time. Good. So that's on the works orders. These works orders are processing, but what you can also do from here is to add operational costs, timesheets. You can go and adjust the costs if you make any errors. But if I go and enter additional costs, you can put any additional costs against a works order. You can say which nominal it goes to, and you're building something, you're taking a customer out for coffee, you can actually associate that expense as a works order expense as well. And you can attach a receipt if you wanted to. Good. In terms of issuing stock, allocating stock, we have numerous different options. So we allow you to bypass the allocation stage on works orders if you don't want to do that. So if you have something going really fast, why do you need to allocate if you don't want to reserve the stock? And we allow you to complete at any time, whether you have issued any stock or done anything with the works order. You could actually allow to just complete the works order. Maybe you haven't received the purchase orders yet, but you need to get the built item out the door. So you can actually allow, it's a settings driven, of course, but if you can allow to complete that works order at any time, at any quantity. But even if you're fully completed the works order, we allow you to, or we can allow you to go and issue the materials retrospectively, even on a fully completed order.
Can we take a look maybe at the planning aspect of it, so just in pulling together the sales orders, existing stock, and where we can generate any of the purchase orders or the purchaser works orders.
Yes. So we have the MRP list view here. So we can see all the demands. We can see what is driving the recommendations. So we have some recommendations to raise a purchase orders because I have a works order number 12 demanding it. I can see from there straight away. I can see when it is required. So that was required 2 days ago. So that's why it's in red, because we know that we are actually
so it's critical to say that when the actual sales orders are being put together, you're feeding in the expected demand date or delivery date, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is critical.
It's critical to all of us.
Yes. So the dates, if they are not accurate, like with your supplier lead times, your operation times, as well as your demand dates on the sales orders or works orders, it could be sales forecasts or whatever the demand is. If the date is not right, the system cannot kind of fulfill, or it's not as efficient as it should be.
Yeah, so you effectively you're feeding in. You have your production manager who effectively will operate off this screen based on existing stock levels, lead dates for suppliers, that kind of thing, when they're feeding in the requirement.
Yes, this is probably, they can either operate from this screen, or if you have a production planner who is trying to schedule your operations and making your shop floor as efficient as possible, we do have a graphical scheduler, so you could utilize that So what it gives on this screen, first of all, you can see different colors and different types of bars and such like. So anything that has a filled box on a single color, that means that those are committed orders. So those are existing works orders that are in the
Mm.
system. But the ones with just a frame around them, like these, they are actually MRP recommendations. So MRP thinks that, okay, we need to do these
Yeah.
and start at that point. Then from here, you can go and drag and drop. You can say, okay, I got a little bit of scope doing this bit earlier. Let's pull this operation here, but let's only finish it a week later. So you have full flexibility in terms of that. And they are color coded, as you can see. So
Yeah.
they're dynamically, it will change color. Green means that it's on time. If it goes into um, orange, that means on this occasion that it's late, or it will be late according to the demand that's been set up. And red means that there is either a resource conflict or it is already the last operation is in the past. On over here, so this is according to a works order, and each of the works order operation is set here. These are uh, you can the blue is a subcontract operation, so you can schedule your subcontracting for, let's say, every time you dispatch on a Monday, for instance, maybe you get better quantity price breaks from some of the suppliers. You can also have a look who these works orders relate to. So from here, I could actually go and group these together. So I have my one custom orders here, second custom orders here, and then orders that are not associated with the customer. And you can schedule they orders accordingly.
So all this is based on the fact that you also have a list of resources. Would that be in the, that's obviously to do with the machinery that's required for the actual
Yeah,
work
you
that you're doing within, and you've got the costs factored around the individual items there, and also the actual staff on the floor.
absolutely. So you can use the scheduler for machines. So you
Yeah.
have your expected setup, run time, setup, run, or tear down times against that,
Mm.
and then it makes the calculation depending on the quantity, how long the operation is likely to take.
Yeah.
And you can do that either for machines, or you can
Yeah.
do that for labor, or you
Yeah.
can do that for both.
And I take
So
it you can appropriate the amount of cost that's required, particularly around individuals and their skill sets on the floor.
yes, you can. So if I go and do that, if I jump into the resource view, so we
Mhm.
have two different views. So on the top we have works orders per operation. Now we have, it might look a bit messy, but that is per resource. But it is the same view as I have if you want to manage your shop floor by a capacity. So from here you can see you have your loading levels. You have your different resources grouped together. So I have for instance, here is a CNC group, but then these are the individual machines. So you could have those as an individual employees with different cost rates, and you can choose which one to use. So from here, you can see there's a lot of red for me on this area, but that is because I only have one of these assembly tools, but I have another line that I have 20 of them available. So what I could do is to track from here. Okay,
Yeah.
there is a slot there. Let's take it over there. Oh, looks like I have a little bit of time at the end of this. Let's put
Yeah.
that there, and now then you're just scheduling over your conflicts. And if you have a look on the bottom here, the capacity changes accordingly as well. And now we are happy for the first day on this group. There is something going on here still, and we will be able to see what contributes to those particular areas. So I can see over here, I am 9 hours overcapacity for this particular window. Over here, I'm 300%. So I will have to do something about these so I can start moving
Gotcha.
my my operations and produce a schedule. Once you have done the schedule in itself, it is really easy just to upload into CIM200, and that's a lot that will then update all the works orders
Gotcha.
with a, if you want to use the specific machines, for instance, it will then transfer them from one machine to another, and that
Gotcha.
will then attract a different cost rate for it.
Got it. Okay. And so going back to the likes of the MRP, for instance,
Hmm.
this obviously affects it when you actually run the actual MRP.
Yes. So when you run the MRP, it will read the new schedule and make a
Gotcha.
new set of um, recommendations, and it updates the what I have done on the MRP,
Very
and it will
good.
tell me these are actually scheduled. So what I know, if I'm going here, I'll just pick up these and I would action those, and then there would be committed orders for that time.
Gotcha. So from here, just for everybody who's actually watching, so in order to for the actual sales orders or some of the ongoing works orders, or even based on minimum stock that's here, you
Yes.
can either generate and push the actual works orders, and it also gives you the option then to generate the purchase orders automatically for sending out, isn't it?
Yes, it does. So if I were to action for one of the recommendations, it will then give you the option to either action that particular recommendation. I can The descendants are the child recommendations. So
Hmm.
they might be dependent, there might be sub-assemblies that will need to be raised. There might be purchase orders for the components on this item. So that would then raise all of those works orders and purchase orders. But if you're just dealing with manufacturing side and operational side of things, you can just say, oh, I'm only raising the sub-assemblies required for that. Or if you're on a purchasing side, you can just say, oh, I need to buy all of this stuff. So there's an option for both. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else you wanted to cover on
So yeah,
planning side of?
what I will point out to people just for time's sake, as I said at the very start, when you have the actual works orders and they're being generated, you can of course use things like the shop floor data capture end. Isn't that correct, Lisa?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So you
Yeah.
can then use that software data collection to issue stock, book the times in and out, make comments about your operations. So that's the bi-directional, and then you can complete the works orders from there. You can do the
Yeah.
quality inspections on software data collection as well as do stock takes and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and of course you can receive goods in and dispatch goods from the actual handhelds also, isn't
Um,
that correct?
Dispatch is not there yet.
Oh, dispatch isn't
Receive,
there. The actual
no,
receipt of the goods is. That's right.
yes, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
correct.
right.
So.
So just to encapsulate it a little bit, it elaborates on the existing bill of materials that you've got from
Mhm.
Sage, gives you more around the actual stock control element of it, a more expansive stock control utilizing what you guys do with the actual BOM module. Effectively, you've a lot more management around the actual stock in the form of qualifications or certifications. Obviously, you can do some quality control on the actual each of the goods as well.
Mhm.
Um, and in turn, in generating the standard kind of bombs that you're building together, you can factor everything in, including any existing works orders, minimum order levels, all into this area, base it on the likes of the demand date and the actual resources available within the actual factory floor, and generate the relevant processes then as a result.
Very good. Spot on.
The other thing as well that I was actually just going to mention, we had a look at the actual planner earlier on. There was something else I was thinking of. I can't remember exactly what it was now, currently at the moment. But just in the ability to be able to generate those things on the back of the recommendation that you actually have here saves an awful lot of time as well. And that's not to say you have to generate all purchase orders that are recommended. You can obviously, block out, or you can hand pick which relevant ones are
Yeah,
generated. Is that correct?
yeah, of course. And when you think about like we see this basically you have 5 lines of the same item required by
Mm,
different orders, you can actually merge them together.
yes.
So if I if I would select, I could combine those recommendations into
Very
one.
good.
So you'd get a little bit higher quantity. You might want to, so there is an option to actually combine all the recommendations or aggregate in Sage terms, but it will automatically merge number of demands together as a one recommendation. So you don't
Gotcha.
have to do quite as much work. But if you want to, you can also split them into
Yeah.
smaller quantities. So that's over there.
I remember there was one of the other things I was thinking of was the likes of any estimates that you can do for, or is there
Mm-hmm.
any kind of trial kitting you can do for?
Yeah, we do have trial kit for bills of materials and works orders, and you can trial kit one or many. But when you're doing any estimating and such like,
Hmm.
you can do that on from a sales order side
Oh,
of
right,
things, and
from the actual sales order itself.
so in a quotation module. I could just quickly show you here. So we have enabled quotation revision, so you can have multiple iterations of a single quotation. But what can be done is to pick up a item,
Hmm.
I can edit that, I can do that at the entry as well. But then we have a configure button.
Very good.
I can go and say, okay, on this occasion, actually, I don't need this item,
Yes.
but this kitchen actually came with my full-size dishwasher. I
Okay.
can change the cost price, and then what I can do from here is to cost it now again,
Very good. At the level
and
of
that
the
will
actual quote.
at the level of the actual quote. So that's a one-off um, variation to a single bill of material.
Got it. That's interesting because you're using some of the existing Sage functionality with what you have within SIM 200 then.
Of course, yes, absolutely. So there's quite uh, lot of that, but also we are introducing new methods, but you wouldn't necessarily see it's so
Yes,
tightly integrated that you don't actually
you wouldn't
see.
actually be able to tell, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. Everything
That's
feels
interesting.
that's
And can I ask, can you keep revisions of existing bombs?
yes, that's a standard
Yeah,
Sage.
that's standard sort of bombs. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just wondering
So
if there was if there was any improvement upon that.
not on the version control side of things,
Okay.
on builds and materials, but you can, once you make these configurations on existing builds and materials, you can actually update them onto the master record from the quotations.
Mm.
And you can also do a free text item quotation. So you can start building up your quotation
Mm.
using just a free text item.
Gotcha.
You don't need to
Really?
have a stock item or bill of material record. But once customer decides, okay, yes, I want this,
Yeah.
then that will then be able to convert into stock item and a bill of material record
Very
and a
good.
works order that are all linked together.
Yeah, that was something that was lacking in the previous sort of Sage manufacturing, is the ability
Yes.
to do that. And I get asked that question quite a bit, so I'm glad you
Hmm.
brought that up. And just to reach out to everybody who's watching here at the moment, if anybody has any questions for you, so or even on the actual process of implementation, feel free to dump it into the chat here currently at the moment. We are, of course, recording this session. We're sticking it up online, so it'll be available if you want to pass it on to anyone else within the organization who wants to to take a look at it. Just to talk briefly, just on the process from DB's perspective, when we get an inquiry for the likes of a manufacturing piece. What we typically do is we'll go through some preliminary stuff just in a general call. My contact details will be at the end of this session. You can catch me at howard.murphy@dbcomp.ie. And if you send something over to me, we can have a quick conversation. We can line up for one of our consultants to have a bit more of a detailed conversation. We can give you a brief demonstration one-to-one on the specific areas that are of necessity directly for yourselves. Once we do that, if it's a case that you choose to push forward, we'd organise a proper scoping session where we will get a detailed look at full requirements prior to installation. And from there on out, we'll deliver a project plan from start to finish on how it'll be delivered. As I said, we also have another video that we will be putting up on the system for the shop floor data collection. So that is typically where we have people out on the floor who will have the likes of tablets or handsets where they access some of this information via a web screen similar to the screen we saw there in the planner, I believe. So am I correct in assuming that?
That's correct. Yep.
So there's numerous things that we can discuss. Obviously not all companies are the exact same, particularly around the production end of things. So we're happy to discuss what way it'll fit for you. And we've made some significant adjustments to some of the actual sites that we've installed for. That's dramatically changed the efficiency of the processes out on the actual floor itself. Other than that, if there are no questions, look, as I say, I'm going to leave my contact details at the end of this. If you are looking for us to have a one-to-one session, we can arrange it within a couple of days anyway, prior to the inquiry. Yusuf, is there anything else that is on the horizon for the actual product that we should be aware of? Just to cap off.
Yeah, there are a few things coming out on our release days coming out next month, about 4 weeks time now. Is things like enhanced OTIF reporting per supplier rather than per stock item, and then a really nice functionality of available to promise. And it's not just a standard available to promise. It actually takes into account the MRP run just to see what stock is coming in, what stock is going out, and gives you the best case scenario when you could be promising something. So it might be something being built on a factory floor that you don't know of yet. That might be coming in tomorrow. Available to promise will pick it up and say, okay, you can dispatch it, let's say a day later.
Very good.
So there are, so we continuously enhancing this.
And of course, there's numerous ways in which you can actually see a good. You can get some good dashboards on the front end of a lot of these processes too. The graphical planner is very nice. I know there's other ways to sort of show some of the other information there too. And again, it varies from client to client. So, but it's something we can discuss on a one-to-one session for anyone also. Other than that, if there's nothing else, we might wrap it up there at that point. What I will do is I'll just share my screen there so people can actually take down the contact details. We will be putting this up on YouTube within the next 24 hours anyway. So if anybody else needs it, or they can contact me directly, we can have a chat. Other than that, thank you very much for your time today. It was great to take a good look at CIM200. You definitely answered a few questions for me there today as well. Questions I didn't think I actually had, which is great. So look, appreciate your time, and thank you very much for everybody for attending. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Howard.
All the best, guys. Take care.